And welcome back to Trip to the Mound. We are the iBaseballChannel podcast. So, Mike, let's talk a little press. As you did mention before this, we ourselves are press, just like the old Three Stooges thing. Remember when they walked through the line?
Press and pull.
There you go. We got a couple of fellow Stooges fans here. I can see that's good stuff.
Well, I had my Stooges cup on our last podcast.
I did notice that,
but I went with Grandma and grandson today.
Very nice, very nice. Well, as the press is related, there was an interesting story that came about yesterday. Ken Griffey Jr., I don't know if you saw the interview or not, but was kind of caught in an interesting moment in front of ESPN's Linda Cohn. She's a longtime broadcaster, been there for quite a while. But what was interesting about it was that Griff was really visibly unattached in the interview. One-word answers. How are you doing today? Fine. Are there any baseball cards you collected back in the day? My dad. Anybody else? Nope. Is there a center fielder that reminds you, of yourself from back in the day? McCutcheon. I mean, there were very one-word answers, kind of short, and this is all, it is what it is. But what was interesting about it afterwards was that Linda Cohn then took to the Twitterverse, which again, a lot of people in the press now do nowadays, and questioned.
Fighting back, you mean?
Yeah, to
irritated?
A degree. Yeah, a little bit irritated as to the.
Too bad.
Yeah, as to his attitude and things of that nature. But I think what people don't fully understand all the time is this relationship between players and the press. It doesn't seem like it's something where you can 24/7 always greet them with your best stuff, because sometimes it's coming at you from ways that you're not expecting. I mean, and that's not to say what was going through Ken Griffey Jr.'s mind at this point, but I think it was refreshing to just see an honest moment happen in the name of sports journalism, where this is how he was. It wasn't necessarily the greatest interview in the world, but it does paint a bigger picture as to why, explain to us a little bit about this tension that sometimes arises between players and the press.
Well, you say sometimes, and, it's there quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing thing, because what people don't realize is, you're a player, and I mean, you can, as soon as you're maybe 0 for 7 in 2 games, the next thing you know, there's a guy in there talking to you about the slump that you're in, putting that thought in your mind. And sometimes you don't want to hear that. Maybe you don't think you're in a slump when you're 0 for 7. You don't want to hear that. And so, pitching wise, who knows the relationship there? And so these guys, meaning the press, the writers, depending on who they are, they all have different personalities, and they come at you with different angles. And so you're always guarded, number one, and then number two, over time you figure out who are the guys that you can kind of trust a little bit more than the others. Who I considered, the situation that you're talking about with Junior, been there and done that many times. For the reasons that I'm telling you, maybe they did something or said something or came out with an article about a teammate or about the overall situation with the team or something like that, just something negative, which they're always on. There's a minimum of, it seems like, a guy within the core of the main media areas that's the negative guy. Glenn Dickey, Lo Cohn, the guy Young from the New York way back in the day, that was came out with stuff, just crazy stuff off the wall, and people don't like it.
Yeah.
And so with Junior and the gal, I just say too bad.
Yeah.
If you want to be a gal in this position, then you're gonna take it. It's equal opportunity, because it happens to guys too.
Well,
so
yeah, and
take her lumps,
yeah.
and hang with them. Maybe we don't know the whole story about the history between the two of them, or him even with ESPN, or the whole story, or whatever was going on behind the scenes. And my thought is too bad.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that I thought of was, if, the Twitter way out to me was kind of that's an easy way out after the fact. If you really in that moment had a problem with what was going on, maybe even stop the interview and say, Griff, is everything okay? I noticed, we're a little short on this. And instead of kind of smiling through it with one hand and then writing something completely the opposite on the other. If that was Howard Stern and somebody's doing to it, I think Howard would be the type of guy to engage and say, why is this happening? Huh? Is there a problem? Is there a reason why we're not communicating right now? And that's, like you said, it's going to happen to you regardless of gender. There's just going to be moments where players are not going to want to divulge themselves. And I think that's it's a thing to respect, but it's funny how, again, the media in this case was the ones that all banded together to say, she handled it so well despite how Griffey treated her and stuff. And I was like, it's, if you're really doing your job, get into it. I mean, if there's a problem, let's find out what it is, because that's the job of a journalist in the first place.
I can see Glenn Dickey coming in and going back and writing another column about his wonderful day at Candlestick Park. Man, I had a great day today based on the article I wrote last week. Upon arriving at Candlestick Park, I was, slayed with verbal lashings and four-letter words coming from the circle of exercises, preceded by a Don Zimmer rampage and this, and boy, I had a great day at the ballpark as a reporter. I'm like, in reality, yes, that's what the guy's getting paid for, which is kind of a rotten thing. It's kind of a rotten thing,
Yeah, well, it's always, and I think the thing to bring it full circle is it always puts them usually in a position of leverage, which is what to me, again, sitting back yesterday, I found, I just found it amazing. I was like, finally, I'm seeing an honest moment on some of these things where sometimes those camera-to-camera interviews seem so rehearsed, where you've always got the happy guy on the other end, and I've got the questions, and you're feeding them to me, and everything's perfect. And Griffey was just in that moment, he posed a different form of, this is how we're going to communicate. And again, there's no right or wrong to it, but it's just how he was in that moment. Who knows the real answer to what was going on, if he was ill, if he had something else on his mind, or like you said.
What was the interview about or for?
For Upper Deck. He's kind of now the face of Upper Deck. They're coming into their 25th anniversary.
The baseball card.
Correct. And so
ESPN's going to do a little special on them, and too bad, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
But that's the way these things go. But like I said, it's good stuff on the relationship between the two, because I think that's the thing that's overlooked, whereas what most people see is the reactionary headlines to these things. And